Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of this first season of the IG Lighthouse podcast. In this episode, we're going to look at why the Data Use and Access Act that was introduced into the UK relatively recently, why I think it's a missed opportunity. I'm also going to talk about some things we've got coming up in season 2 and some things to keep an eye on, plus something that I want your opinion on and input into. So, starting with why do I think the Data Use and Access Act is a missed opportunity? Now, I'm not going to go through the intricate details of what it's changing and why some bits of it are good, some of it's bad, bits of it are bad, because I do think some of it are quite good, like embedding the reasonable search stuff into SAR, changing some of the provisions in the law enforcement directive that were missing and overlooked, making it easier to manage international transfers, various other bits and pieces. Very good. That's a step forward. We like that. Yes, marvelous. But, and I get why there was no appetite for this. I really do, because it does involve a complete structural overhaul. But I do think that the Labour government could have been bold with it and could have said, look, we're not part of the European Union anymore. Fine. Agree or disagree with that to the heart's consent. But it's a fact. We're not. Therefore, the EU GDPR does not directly apply unless you're offering goods and services, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, do we need to have, strictly speaking, a GDPR as one block of law? I know that's clumsy language, but and then a Data Protection Act, and the two intertwine, so you have to look at both things, and a separate Part 3 of the Data Protection Act 2018. No, we don't. We don't need to do that anymore. We did it because it was part of our leaving the European Union. We did it originally as part of our membership of the European Union. But now we're not a member anymore. So do we need that legal structure? No. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying let's get rid of the GDPR. You might have seen some of this stuff around the digital omnibus where the EU is looking to strip down and, well, they're calling it simplifying it. I'm calling it stripping it down. Read the text of it, read the requirements of it. It's stripping it down. Calling it reorganisation as much as you like. As someone that's been through many reorganisations in the public sector, that was stripping it down as well. So you say simplifying, we say, and the rest of the world says stripping down. But that's a separate issue. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is actually reorganizing it back into one law again. So almost look, we don't need to change the grounds for processing. We could just move them into one. We don't need to change the requirements. We just move them into one. We perhaps edit something to make Article 10 about criminal data the law enforcement bit. So if you are using data for a law enforcement purpose, then you do this. Because other than that, the LED and the GDPR are very similar. We could put some specific provisions in to edit the rights so they mirror that of the LED. So if you are using it for a criminal law enforcement purpose, then we say certain rights don't exist like they do right now. It wouldn't be a massive change. But what it would do is then mean that everyone was back under one umbrella again. Law enforcement, public sector, private sector, all of it was all under one piece of legislation, one act, one place to go for all of your laws on data protection. Well, not all of them, you know. I think that would have been a bold statement. That would have stamped firmly a British stamp view, whatever word you want to use, on it. It would have said, right, we are looking forward. We are looking to the future. We've got our own legal framework now. So let's put it in a framework that works for us rather than this patchwork quilt of a bit of a mess that we've got. Makes it easier, makes it simpler, brings everyone back under War One law again, like it was under the old DPA 1998. I think it's a missed opportunity. I think you could quite relatively easily have done that with no major disruption. Because again, we're not looking at and we're not advocating changing grounds for processing or fundamentally changing how personal data is processed and how it's governed, simply just bringing everything back into one act. So it's no longer the GDPR as implemented by EU, blah, 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 blah. It isn't the Data Protection Act. It isn't. It's the Data Protection Act. What? Well, 2025 it would have been. That would have worked. I think that's quite bold. I think that's quite forward thinking, puts our own stamp on it, says that it's, this is now how we do things in Britain, now that we're no longer a member of the European Union. We could tidy up some things, so actually properly strip out all the things that we don't need because we're no longer part of the European Union, or don't apply because we're not part of the European Union. All those sorts of things we could easily have stripped out, plus then, if appropriate to do so, then looked at things like, do we need to update some of the right stuff? Do we need to make it easier to say something is excessive? Do we need to look at, I don't know, certification? Do we need to actually make it clear the ICO needs to do something? Oh, that was political. That sort of thing. Actually have a proper, clear debate about it, tidy it up, make it a nice, well, not nice, that's not the right word, but making it just almost drawing a line, saying, look, this doesn't apply to us anymore. We've got to go our own way for various reasons. We don't want to deviate away from, but as the previous Conservative government, and I really don't agree with the previous Conservative government, however, on this point, there it is true, deviation away from the EU GDPR explicit setup does not mean you have to water it down. You can do it in the same way, just structured in a structure that works for you. So we could do that. We don't have to have a separate LED or a separate this or a separate that, or a little bit that says it applies to employment processing or any of that nonsense. It can literally be a reorganized into, we take everything that was there before into one, done. I think that could have been forward thinking. I think that could have solved a few problems because in conversations between, especially public authorities and the police, there is, especially if a public authority doesn't do much law enforcement processing, there is a little bit of it's not a massive barrier, but there is a little bit of a hurdle / barrier between the two. Because if a police force, for example, comes to you and quotes loads of things from the LED, Part 3 of the DPA 2018, and you never touched it before, you do have to do a little bit of research to find out whether or not what they're saying is actually right and if it's actually relevant to what you're doing. So it has put some barriers in the way. That's true. Has it stopped it completely? No, don't be silly. But I think it's just an unnecessary barrier for the purposes of just structure. That's it. There's no other reason to have a separate piece of legislation for it. It's purely just structure. And because the EU had to, because of the EU structure, that we've done it. We could easily switch it back again, quite easily. I mean, I'm not, to also be clear, an EU or Brexit proponent at all. I don't agree with it, didn't vote for it at the time, and wouldn't vote for it now either. But having said that, I do believe that if this is here to stay, and let's be honest, it is here to stay for a while, I do think this was an opportunity to actually think forward, to grasp the opportunity as it presented itself, and actually see about drawing a line and saying, right, we're not deviating away, but this is now tidying it up, putting it into a structure that works for us as a country, and we can move forward. So I think it was a missed opportunity. I get why they didn't, because if Labour are all about innovation and we're trying to stimulate the economy and all that other good stuff, then that sort of disruption, and let's be honest, it will be a disruption. We've seen some of the nonsense that's come out from the Data Use and Access Act, or people have latched onto it and gone, you've got to comply with the DUAA. It's now a new piece of legislation that you have to comply with directly, and not actually accepting that no, it actually edits quite a lot of other bits of law. Yeah, there are some bits in it that are directly applicable, but most of it is just editing other bits of law. So that's a load of nonsense. So I get it. You will get people that will muddy the water, cause confusion, and cause disruption in an already troubled UK market. So yeah, all right, fine, I get it. But I do stand by the opinion. I think at some point we should move things back into one act, perhaps update some things for the 21st century, integrate some of the AI-based stuff, but I don't believe some of the AI edits or the automated decision-making edits are a good idea. I think that's watering down rights, but that's a whole other debate. I think we could, put our own British stamp on it quite easily. I think we could. So I think this is a missed opportunity. I think it's something that we should look for. Who knows what the future will bring, or what the Information Commission, once it's set up, will do. I still think that's weird, the Information Commission. There's too much shuns in there for my liking. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Don't know what you think. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you think it was better in the good old days when it was one act under the DPA 1998? Do you think actually no, police enforcement or law enforcement purposes should be separate and should be treated separately? Do you think the status quo is fine? What do you think? I'm going to put that idea out there for discussion. What do people think? Get people talking. We often accept laws as is. No, you don't have to do it that way. There's 1,000 ways that you could word and structure the same requirement without watering it down. So what do you think? What would you like to see? If you got a bold government in power that was interested in actually restructuring it and breaking free from some of the requirements that no longer apply, structural requirements that no longer apply, not the actual requirements, what would you want to see? Let me know in the comments. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is what's coming up in season 2. So we're going to start with, probably in around towards the end of January, we're going to look at some bits and pieces around learning and networking. So the first thing we're going to look at is stuff around building your development plan. And then we're going to be talking to some people about learning, how to manage your own professional development. We're going to be doing more of the soft skills because the most recent one we did around change management went down very well. So thank you all for your feedback and engagement with that. We're also going to bring in some bits around expanding more on stakeholder management, communication skills. I do want us to start talking about all the things that go around data, as well as getting some people in to talk as well. So keep an eye on that. Subscribe across various platforms now. We are looking to expand to more, but these things take time and momentum, so do keep an eye out. So if we're not quite on your ideal or preferred podcast platform just yet, then do keep an eye out and we'll see what comes in the future. The last thing I want to talk to you about today, and this is a bit of an ask and a bit of a competition, is at the moment we call this podcast the IG Lighthouse because it's a lighthouse of all things IG and we want to shine a light on it. We want to get some feedback from you. Do you like that name? Do you think there's a better name? For example, could we call ourselves, I don't know, and the rest is data? Because you've had the rest is politics, and the rest is politics, and the rest is history, and the rest is whatever. Perhaps, and the rest is data might be a thing. Might need to check if we can do that with copyright, because I don't know if they've copyrighted the word or the brand, and the rest is. But you know what I mean? Is there some funny anecdotal names you think might work? Just what do you think? Or does the IG Lighthouse work for you? Because this is the place you go to shine a light on all things IG. choice is yours. I just plucked that because it seemed like a good idea at the time. But I thought, as we've done our first series and we've had some really good feedback and engagement, which I thank you all for, it's greatly appreciated. And as I started the season with, I didn't necessarily think this was a good idea because that's just what my imposter said. But you have all disagreed. So thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated. So we look forward to season 2. But let me know. Come up with some clever names of things to consider. Plop them in the comments. You can also drop me a note to scott@lighthouseig.com. You can comment on LinkedIn. Let us know. What do you think? And we'll have a look and see. And the one that we think gets the most votes, or the one that we think people like the most, we may rebrand to. Who knows? Or we might just keep it as the IG Lighthouse. But either way, that's the end of this season. So if you missed any episodes, do go back and have a look. There's some really good ones on FOI, deletion, the data element of data protection, imposter syndrome, data ethics, stakeholder management, change management. My thanks go to our guests that we've had over the course of this season, Lynn Wyeth, Catherine Dickinson, Sarah Newman, and Bruce Harris. Thank you to all of you for giving up your time to get involved. It was great talking to you, great having you on, and we may well have you on again in the future. So like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends and colleagues, and do let us know. What do you think? Do you think the Data Use and Access Act was a missed opportunity? Was the government not bold enough in taking the opportunity, or were they too bold? Who knows? What would you like to see in seasons to come? Because again, we want to make sure that you get the most out of it as possible. And what do you think of the name? Do you think there could be a better name, like the rest is data, or the data moment, the data light, the records light? Can't do on the record or off the record because I think they've been taken. Let us know. Thanks all, and have a great festive period, Christmas, New Year, and I will see you in 2026.